Today, we're talking about the Adidas Adizero Adios 4 versus the Nike Zoom Streak 7. .43 miles, 7 minutes 42 seconds per mile today, going for a run in the Nike Zoom Streak 7 so that I can compare it to the Adizero Adios 4 that I just finished my 100-mile review yesterday. Now, before I get into my thoughts on these two shoes, let me go over some disclosures. Both of these shoes were sent to me by Roadrunner Sports for the purposes of review, but neither Roadrunner Sports nor Adidas nor Nike, no one is paying me to make this video, and no one's going to get to preview my thoughts or see any of my footage before you guys get to see it on YouTube. Now, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about these two shoes. These two shoes are both marathon road racing shoes from Nike and Adidas respectively, and they're both a little bit on the old school side. Now, while for Adidas this is still their flagship marathon road racing shoe, the Zoom Streak 7 is a bit of a departure from what you might be more familiar with now from Nike in terms of the marathon road running shoes, where we're looking at the Vaporfly 4% or even the Vaporfly Next, which will be technically releasing Sunday, I think, for the purposes of road racing rules, the same day as a London Marathon, with a wider release for that shoe coming up in the summer. But this is very much different, indicative of what Nike racing shoes used to be like, although this is a 2019 shoe. This is an updated release, the 7th iteration of the shoe. In these two shoes, you have two different foam technologies. In the Adios 4, you've got Boost technology in here with a little bit of this torsion kind of plate to keep things a little bit more stable. And in the Zoom Streak 7, we've got Phylon foam with a little bit of a shank that you could see on the bottom of the shoe to give it that little bit of extra rigidity. Both have excellent uppers. The Adios 4 upper is one of the favorite uppers that I've ever run in, and the Zoom Streak 7 also is an absolutely fantastic upper, and I've really been enjoying it. It's a roomier toe box than most of the Nike running shoes that you might be familiar with of recent release, and running in it is just absolutely a pleasure. Now, the main differences for me in both of these shoes, even though these are both road marathon racing shoes, is that the Nike is a little bit more of a race feel to me. It feels like it has that special something that you might want to save only for race days, whereas the Adios 4 felt like something I could definitely race in. It's lightweight, feels great on my feet. It has just the right amount of boost in it for me in terms of being able to race in something. But it also felt like something that I should be using for tempo days and longer run days where I want to push the effort level a little bit. It felt more like a trainer than it did a racer. And I think that also kind of plays into where I think these two shoe fits for the non-elite runners, because I think elites can certainly run and race in either of these shoes and do really well. But for me, I felt like I could run in this in the marathon distance in terms of racing, but ideally I think for most people it's going to be in that half marathon distance. That's the sweet spot for this shoe. The Zoom Streak 7, I'm not sure that I can run a marathon in these. I mean, I probably could, but what I typically find whenever I run in this shoe is that I don't know if it's the rigidity of the shank in there or the way that the Phylon is, but it really encourages me to be on my toes for more of the race. And after a while, sometimes that creates a little bit of fatigue in my arches. While you certainly can do a little bit of heel toe running, and in a marathon you're going to be doing at least a little bit of that, the Phylon does not feel as great in the heel for me as it does in the midfoot and in the toes. it's not as comfortable for me for longer distances. I'm not sure that I could race in it for a marathon. I think ideally this would be, for me, a half marathon racing shoe, although I've raced in it in distances as short as an 8K. I ran the Shamrock Shuffle in this shoe early this year, and I particularly enjoyed it for that distance and that race. One last thing that I will take note of is the outsole pattern on each of these shoes. On the Adidas Adizero Adios 4, you've got the Continental rubber, which I've liked. It's a minimal application of rubber, just enough of what you need for your race day, but it will wear down relatively quickly, but it is grippy for the time that you do have it. In the Zoom Streak 7, I really enjoyed this kind of grooved pattern that they have in the outsole. It feels great underfoot, and I feel like it's really grippy with the way that they've alternated between the rubber in the high traction areas and just left the Phylon exposed in more the midfoot where there isn't as much ground contact. The one thing I will note though, even though this is really grippy, if you're running on a surface that has a little bit of gravel or grit in it, it's gonna get into these grooves. I've never noticed it when I did my time trial that I ran testing this shoe out in case I might wanna use it for the tunnel marathon that I have coming up next. I didn't notice it underfoot that rocks were getting stuck in there, very, very little rocks. But by the time I was done, I had a ton of little rocks stuck into those grooves. So that's something to keep in mind if you're gonna be looking at that shoe. Well, so those are my thoughts between the two shoes, the Adios 4 and the Nike Zoom Streak 7. Let me know if you have any questions about either of those two shoes. Put them in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys down there. Now, before I go, I want to talk about our charity runner for the week. The charity runner for this week is Courtney Smith, and he's going to be running the London Marathon in just a couple of days. Good luck to you, Courtney. And he's going to be raising money for Severn Hospice. Hospice is a place where people go to get end-of-life care, support, and services. And Severn Hospice was the hospice that took care of his stepmom before she passed. So a very worthy cause. Very happy to donate 70 pounds to Courtney's fundraising efforts, and I'll post links in the description in case you'd like to learn more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?